Bhajahure manam Sri Nanda Nandanaya Bhaya Charanara Bindare. Bhajahure manam Sri Nanda Nandanaya Bhaya Charanara Bindare.
The jailers who were looking after him and Bhaktivinoda Thakur would see him. They saw that when the man, when he became angry, sparks, flame would come out of his head, come out of this top of his head. So he certainly had some power. That's a remarkable thing. Who can do that without some trick or illusion? But Bhaktivinoda Thakur had to make a decision. I insult this man, or I let him continue his fraud of the people of my district that he's responsible for. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur determined he's a fraud, no matter what others may think of him. I see him as a fraud, and now I'm exposing him as a fraud. I'm taking a decision. That's what a preacher has to do. Preacher has to distinguish reality from illusion, has to make some judgment. This is an advanced Vaishnava, this is someone posing as a Vaishnava, not really a Vaishnava, or not really an advanced Vaishnava. He may be Vaishnava, but may be Kanishta Adhikari, some lower grade Vaishnava, but posing as a Vaishnava. Srila Sridhar Maharaj dealt with that. Dealt with disciples of Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, posing as big gurus, acharyas, in front of him. And he determined, no, you're all students. I consider you as students, not finished professors. He made a judgment about them. He didn't say, yes, whatever you say, I accept. Rather, just the opposite. What you say, I completely reject it. And one of the things they were saying was, oh, what we say is non-different from what Prabhupada says. Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, I completely reject that. It cannot be. And their argument was, no, but we all agree. And so therefore, because we all agree, that's further proof that it must be what non-different from what our Guru wants. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj rejected that. No, Vox Populi is not Vox Dei. The voice of the people is not the voice of God. Any number of imperfects does not make one perfect. Very common sense. It's the whole thing, actually, everything is very common sense. Not much. There are many mystical things about Krishna consciousness, but most of it is arrived at through common sense. Most of it can be understood with common sense and reason. Achintya Beta Beta Tattva. It's mystical, it's common sense, simultaneously. So Vox Populi, the voice of many, does not mean it's the voice of one, of God. And no number of imperfect voices, you can, whether it's 5 or 10, 12, 22, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, it'll never equal the one perfect voice. No matter how many imperfect things you gather together, they'll never equal a perfect thing. That's logic, that's reason. So, because they disagreed with these leaders, they disagreed with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj disagreed with them. They insulted him. The natural outcome of disagreement. It's natural. People become angry when you disagree about important matters, and you become angry, and the different parties may insult one another. I was listening to a recording the other day where Kirtananda Maharaj and Jayapataka Maharaj and Gopal Krishna Maharaj came to, in 1982, I believe late 1980, how could that be? It must have been early 1982, March or so of 1982. Anyway, 1982 they came to visit Srila Sridhar Maharaj to tell him why they did not accept his opinion. I think that was the real purpose of their visit. And why they didn't accept his opinion? Because they accepted the opinion of their guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. That was their idea. We can't accept your opinion because we have our guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. We have to follow his opinion. Now, would Srila Sridhar Maharaj disagree with that? No, he would not, actually. He never did. He never told anyone, any one of us that I'm aware of, that we should follow his opinion rather than the opinion of our guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. He never said that. And why would he? And even when it contradicted his own idea. So there was one incident where Achyutananda was staying with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Swami Maharaj had told Achyutananda, his disciple, to do his preaching on the banks of the Ganges in Calcutta. To go, because people go there for bathing, and many people congregate there, and different types of spiritual people have so-called spiritual people. Whether they are or not, we can't actually say. But at any rate, so-called spiritual groups go there and do what we do. They do Sankirtan, they do Bhajan, they try to attract people to come and follow their particular practices. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj objected to this idea. Achyutananda told him, I want to go and do this. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, actually our Guru Maharaj, his idea was different. There you will meet many common people. But our Guru Maharaj, his idea was to meet with the upper echelon of society, and especially someone qualified. He considered Achyutananda qualified, an intelligent person, intelligent man. So he thought, better you spend your time preaching to the upper classes, the educated and intelligent sections of society. That was our Guru. That was my Guru Maharaj's program, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's program. So then this, naturally, Srila Swami Maharaj, Achyutananda's Guru, is telling him one thing, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj is telling him, and he's living with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and the condition of living there is that he follows Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So now, of course, he will wonder, so then what should I do? I should follow your idea, Srila Sridhar Maharaj? You're telling me that your Guru Maharaj wanted this, but my Guru is telling me to do something else. And without any ambiguity, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, you follow what your Guru Maharaj tells you to do. And as Srila Govinda Maharaj said, we are following the law. That's the law. We're not lawbreakers in that sense. We're following the law. And on the other hand, someone tells you to do something that your guru doesn't want you to do, then we must advise you, don't do it. And that was the situation with these gentlemen, these sannyasis I mentioned, who came to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj in 1982. They were telling Srila Sridhar Maharaj, what our guru says is different from what you say. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj's response was, it cannot be different. Because he knows Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj better than these young men. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj had supreme confidence that Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj could not have instructed them to do something wrong, which is what they were thinking to do. Something wrong. So, Srila Sridhar Maharaj took issue with it. No, he could not have told you that. That could not be his idea. And he certainly knew Srila Swami Maharaj better than any of these persons, not only from the spiritual, transcendental plane, but just in an ordinary, in the common way. He lived off and on with Srila Swami Maharaj for 13 years, right next to his home in Calcutta. And day after day, they had talks, long into many late night conversations discussing Krishna consciousness together. And they were intimate friends long before that, and long after that. And these new young men, newly acquainted with Krishna consciousness, by comparison, 10 years perhaps they'd been following their guru, Srila Swami Maharaj. And they're thinking that they know better than this exalted Vaishnava, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, who their guru told them to consult with on the very important questions that they came to him to consult about. Their guru told him, consult with Srila Sridhar Maharaj about important matters. Where you have doubt, question, where your understanding is not clear. He will clarify it. He will clear up the matter. So go to him. Then they went to him, and then they decided, no, our Guru Maharaj made a mistake sending us to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. That was their first, that's what we call deviation. When you deviate from your Guru's direction. Their Guru told them, our Guru told us, go to Srila Sridhar Maharaj for questions, important questions about our philosophy and the Siddhanta, the conclusions of the Vedas, to understand what is the Vedic, the proper conception in relationship to the Vedic scriptures. But they deviated from that. No, our Guru Maharaj must have made a mistake sending us to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Why? Because Srila Sridhar Maharaj should be agreeing with us, but he disagrees with us. Therefore he must be wrong and we must be right, because we know what is right. We know better than him. Hare Krishna. That is deviation, and because of the deviation from the instructions of their own guru, Then they insulted a exalted Vaishnava, unintentionally. That wasn't their intention. I'm not accusing them in that way. I don't believe it was intentional, but it was inevitable. The Guru gives instructions. We take instructions from the Guru, from our Guru, because we want to be protected. We are in an unsafe condition. The material world is a dangerous place. Its danger, its main principal danger is that we may be diverted from our target of serving Sri Guru Gauranga. That's the primary and first danger. That we may be diverted from serving Sri Guru Gauranga. So the world is fraught with danger. And there are many opinions. And we have to make choices to follow one opinion or another. And in this instance, the leaders of this great institution, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and I'm uncomfortable talking about this because it's not all one side or another exactly. But this is certain, that these leaders at that time, I'm not saying anything about today, but at that time, 1982, 1981, and the years immediately following those years, they took horrible, wrong decisions, thinking that they were preachers and they would take risk. They knew it was a risk. They had to know that it was risky to disagree with Srila Giri Maharaj, and that disagreement would turn to insult and offense. And they said it. Some of them, I heard it from them. They understood that it is dangerous, but we are followers of our Guru, so therefore we have right to follow our Guru and ignore and dismiss and following that, proclaim this his god brother as in many different unjustified ways. He's a Mayavadi. He's a Sahajya. He's not advanced. He's a Goshtyanandi, not a Bhajananandi. Or he's a Bhajananandi rather, not a Goshtyanandi. Bhajananandi means one who is only engaged in his own bhajan. So therefore he's not qualified to give advice to the Goshtyanandis, those who are preachers. Well, the truth is just the opposite, actually. If what they were saying was true, which I believe that is not my position, Sridhar Maharaj showed himself as a Goshtyanandi, a preacher of Krishna consciousness, not a Bhajananandi. But Bhajananandi, they're also perfect devotees. Nothing wrong with Bhajananandi. Goswamis were Bhajananandis, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Anyone critical of them? Bhajananandi means Goswami, means Babaji. They took the dress, they took the vesh, they took the mantra of Babaji. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj categorized those Babajis as the 5th order, the 5th spiritual order, the highest spiritual order. is the order of the Bhajananandi, not the Goshtyanandi. So who is Babaji, and thereby Bhajananandi, he is drawing down the vital substance from the spiritual world for the purpose of distributing it in this world to those who are seeking it, but do not have their own power to draw it from the spiritual world. Like Advaita Acharya had the power to call Mahaprabhu and bring him to bring about the reform necessary for the preaching of Krishna consciousness in Kali Yuga and the spreading of Krishna consciousness in Kali Yuga. So Advaita Acharya, it was needed by everyone. Everyone needed a simple means and a direct means for making progress in Krishna consciousness through the Yuga Dharma. Yogyai Sankirtana Prayaya, Yujantihi Sumeda Saha. This was necessary for this age. Necessary that we have a means by which we can become established in proper position of the jiva, servant, eternal servant of Krishna. So it was a thing which everyone should want, but not everyone has the power to do. But Advaita Acharya had the power to call Mahaprabhu, to call for his advent. Everything has gone to hell, so my Lord, please be merciful to the jivas and show yourself, advent yourself. If you don't, then I will just destroy it all. What's the point? So the Bhajananandis, the Babajis, the fifth order, the spiritual ashram, those who are true Babajis, they are the leaders of the Goshtyanandis. They are the leaders of the sannyasis. They are the masters. The sannyasis are the servants. They are like the head and the sannyasis like the arms and the legs to what they are drawing down from the spiritual world. The fourth order, the sannyas order, is for distributing that. Of course, there is overlap because and either the mantra is the same for Babaji and for sannyas. So either one may be equally qualified. But in the system of Varnashram Dharma, then the five spiritual orders are shown this way, and the order of Babaji in the ideal situation is superior. So they are calling Srila Sridhar Maharaj Bhajananandi, meaning he's not qualified. We are preachers, we are qualified. He doesn't know anything about the Western world. So he may have some interesting perspective, transcendental perspective, but it doesn't apply because we are experienced. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj never took that position either. He never took the position of telling the men in the field how to do their business of preaching. He was giving the backing to them, the precepts. So organizations have a flaw. And the flaw is that they tend to want to perpetuate themselves at the expense of all else. It's like governments. Governments have that flaw. Governments always want to get bigger and bigger, expand their power, expand their influence. Organizations want the same thing. They want to expand their influence. So the leaders, those who control the organizations, they want to expand their influence. And they may have good reason. They may think like these sannyasis who went to see Srila Giri Maharaja, they thought, and they were only these were not only their ideas, they were representing the whole governing body of ISKCON. And they were thinking, oh, what is this little Srila Giri Maharaj? He's sitting here in Navadvip. What does he know about preaching? He's in a little cottage by comparison to what they were accustomed to. Over 100 centers around the world, many temples, temples in India, temples in so many places, Germany, all over the United States, France, Africa, Argentina, I don't know, Mexico, South America, Brazil, Venezuela, all over the world, all over Europe, England, etc., Spain, on and on. So it's easy to understand how they would be confused. We are followers of Prabhupada, and this is all these temples, all this book distribution, book printing, all these volumes of books, transcendental literature that have been produced. We did that. And what has Srila Giri Maharaj done? How many temples he has? One. And his Nat Mandir was still unfinished at that time. So it didn't even have a completed kirtan hall. Temple means the mandir where the deity is standing. He had that. He also had one building for the brahmacharis and himself, and a kitchen. That was more or less it. And they came there, and hasn't been painted for years. At least it looked that way. It looked like it hadn't been painted for years. So it all faded. Everything faded, and faded to the extent that the buildings, you could see the stucco. The paint had washed away from the stucco, so you could see either very faded paint, and in other places just stucco, no paint at all. A very, 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 very modest looking place. And they were coming from Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir, a very grand, glorious looking place. And Kirtanananda Swami, by that time, he had constructed a palace of gold, with a gold leaf dome. And everything in that palace, Prabhupada's palace it was called, is called. Prabhupada's palace, marble, very, very expensive marble, very expensive, every fixture, every detail. To recreate that today would just so much handwork, hand craftsmanship, painting, sculpting, woodworking, millionaires could not have a place like that. Many couldn't. But Kirtananda had done that for the glory of his guru, for the glory of Srila Prabhupada. And that is a laudable idea. And a laudable idea, but gone astray. Many good intentions. Good intentions are a dime a dozen. The execution of the good intention, the proper execution, that's much more rarely achieved. So, these preachers, Kirtananda Swami, Gopal Krishna, Jayapataka, and they were representing preachers of the world. Rameshwar Maharaj, who was primary person responsible for the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, the BBT, the printers, and responsible for the printing and distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books. And so he one shipment of his books to a temple would exceed all of the books that Srila Sridhar Maharaj had printed in his lifetime. There's the difference of quantity. So, is it conceivable then that Rameshwar Maharaj might think, well, what can Srila Sridhar Maharaj know about printing, book distribution, etc.? We've done so much, such big things, and what has he done? We've printed millions. We've distributed millions. Printed and distributed. Then what could he know about book printing or book distribution or the philosophy behind it or anything like that? And Rameshwar Maharaj was the president, not only of GVC, but the president of one of the largest temples in the world, the Los Angeles Temple. A beautiful temple. With hundreds of devotees. Big festivals, Rath Yatra Festival on Venice Beach in Los Angeles, California. And he thought, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj told him that the jiva cannot fall from the spiritual world, then Rameshwar Maharaj, who had some faith in Srila Sridhar Maharaj, then Rameshwar Maharaj thought, oh, he is in disagreement with my guru, so therefore I can't accept anything he says now. But there again, Srila Sridhar Maharaj pointed out, no, it's not possible that what I'm saying is different from what your guru knew. What you understood, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj accounted for it. Oh, what you understood your guru to say, that's one thing. But he cannot be saying anything different than what I am saying. So, Srila Sridhar Maharaj understood. The fault was not with Swami Maharaj, the fault was with the disciple who could not understand what Srila Swami Maharaj was telling them. That was always his position. So, anyway, they disagreed, and their organization, the great organization that was founded by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, fell into the great disarray, and virtually every one of those who were gurus at the time fell down from their position in some way or other to a man. To a man. Maybe one or two exceptions. I'm not following, so, and I'm not qualified to say completely. But, and I'm not saying this to stir up some new disagreements between ourselves and the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Many of those persons later repented for their treatment of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and genuinely so. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, at least I know Srila Govinda Maharaj, accepted them as genuinely repentant for their dealings with Srila Sridhar Maharaj. But unfortunately, the damage had already been done, and it's very difficult to come back from that position. So this is a great quandary for us as preachers. Tell the truth as you see it. We must do that. We must speak the truth. That is demanded of us. Otherwise, we are not sincere. At the same time, we should be very cautious about what is being discussed here. Insulting an advanced devotee. Who is advanced? In this story I was telling, they thought they couldn't actually, I think, didn't know how to adjust this thing. They didn't want to insult Srila Sridhar Maharaj, but they couldn't accept that his opinion was superior to theirs. So, therefore it happened in that way. One who is sincere, he is always protected by the Lord. One who wants to do good, he will not be overcome by evil. So, therefore, we are left with our own conscience to decide these things following our own conscience. So, in the example I gave, then so many, most of the, I don't know, most of my god brothers and god sisters, I'm a disciple of Srila Swami Maharaj. I joined ISKCON and I served in ISKCON for many years until my expulsion because of these things that we're discussing. I followed my conscience, and those who didn't go with us to the lotus feet of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, We can assume they were following their conscience. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Who can say? It's easier to stay in the group you're in. And a lot of times our conscience may tell us one thing, and then we try to adjust our conscience to conform with what is easier. So there will always be arguments and counter-arguments, always arguments in favor of taking a particular step and arguments against taking that step. We must take steps forward in the progress. If we're going to progress in Krishna consciousness, then we have to take steps forward. And every step forward means I have to take some new risk. As long as you don't take any risk, you're not going forward. There's no motion. Motion means risk. Every motion has some risk attached to it. So, those who are risk averse may come to some stage, some level of Krishna consciousness, and then they cannot cross beyond that because they're afraid. They're afraid to take the next step, afraid of the risk involved. Now, we shouldn't be afraid of risk. We should be afraid of staying in that one position. That position means I am compromising with Maya. That's what it means. To take no risk, to make progress in Krishna consciousness means where I am, it's acceptable. I know I have not gone as far as I can go, but where I am now, it's acceptable. And where I am now means I am compromising with illusion. I am compromising with Maya. And Srila Giri Maharaja told us, and it's the verdict of the scriptures, and all our gurus say the same thing, that in one form or another, no risk, no gain. No risk, no gain. All risk, all gain. Risk everything. The potential is to gain everything. There's also the potential to lose everything. No risk, no gain. No risk, no gain. No risk, no gain. It's easier to just sit where we are. Hare Krishna.